What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It is I, your host, as always, Adam Perez. We're back once again with a brand new episode. I was going to say episode review, but live viewer questions for you guys, as we unfortunately did not get the opportunity to finish them last weekend on Sunday. But we are, in fact, here giving you the remainder of your live viewer questions, dropping for you guys this Wednesday afternoon. So I hope everybody's certainly doing well wherever you're at. I hope your week is certainly going fantastically well. And guys, let's go ahead and finish off these live viewer questions, shall we? We're starting off with the most talented man in the world. I suck my own balls is here today. TJ is the man, he says. He says, how cool was TJ as the first Black Red Ranger in Turbo? His character from start to finish was just awesome. By the time we switched over to In Space, TJ was still acting as the leader, more like the second in command. Yeah, absolutely. While Andros was the new Red Ranger of the series, he let TJ lead the rest of the team. This allowed Andros to do his own thing with finding his sister and being the one who was familiar with being in outer space, while the four main Rangers focused on fighting Zordon. TJ's best moment during In Space is when he helped the team find a way to take down the remaining Psycho Rangers by making the team be the same color as he was. Pretty genius, right? Just seeing TJ to be a co-leader was awesome, and in a way, the writers redeemed themselves from Zeo when Rocky was being demoted from the Red Ranger to Blue, cause TJ was so badass. He came back for Forever Red, then 2 more times for Legendary Fail and Dimensions in Danger. But yeah, TJ was and is still one of the best and greatest Rangers we've had in history. I also love the nod from the In Space episode Identity Crisis when TJ had amnesia. We saw that he kept his baseball uniform from Turbo, reminding us his love for baseball and that he was the Red Ranger thanks to his uniform being red. Lastly, we can't forget about the epic moment in Forever Red when he finally got to hear his full name, Theodore Jarvis Johnson. And listen, let me tell you something, man. I love talking about TJ. I really do. He is up there with like one of my top 5 sort of best Red Rangers of all time. First off, because of the fact that he was in fact the first Black Ranger, but he had such swag and such a fantastic demeanor about him, and truly like a leader. While I necessarily wasn't the biggest fan of the Turbo series, TJ always stood out to me. I always thought he was such a great and strong leader, and I really appreciated the fact that even when they went to In Space, like you mentioned, even though he's demoted sort of to the Blue Ranger, I appreciate the fact that Andros is smart enough to recognize like what his own strengths are and what TJ's strengths are, right? And maybe Andros, and I'm not taking anything away from Andros as far as like being a leader to the team, but he clearly understands what his knowledge and his ability of knowing what's happening in space certainly can help push that team to its next level, if you will. But he also understands sort of like what TJ means to the team and consistency, right? And the fact that this whole team is familiar with him as their leader and still be open-minded enough to let him sort of be the co-leader of the team, I honestly think really went a long way to helping Space really prevail and really having 2 big, strong Rangers on the team and Andros along with TJ. And for me, one of my favorite moments for TJ is the Forever Red moment. Like, there's something awesome about Carter recognizing TJ, right? Like, it's not just, hey, this is our first Black Red Ranger sort of thing, or hey, we love this guy. No, the fact of him giving his full name is like putting some respect on this man's name where it's certainly earned and deserved. For that, I absolutely loved it. And he comes out of his car all swagged out. I love it, man. I love it. Theodore Jarvis Johnson. Love me some TJ, so thanks for bringing that up. Francois Dupont, he says, 1 week after the 4th death anniversary of Pua from Ninja Storm, who played Shane the Red Ranger, it is hard to believe that it's been 4 years since his tragic passing. It is unfortunate that both he and now JDF both lost their lives through personal issues. To celebrate and the life and legacy of Pua, I watched episodes that focused on his character Shane, including the 2-parter of his Battleizer introduction. I really love that Shane found his guardian angel named Skyla, who had been watching over him since he was a child, her giving him her great power, which was his Battleizer, was just absolutely beautiful. Not only did she give his Battleizer to him as thank you for saving her from the villain Vexicus as a child, but we also both their destinies define each other. This 2-parter really showed that Shane was always meant to be the Red Ranger, and Skyla even told him that no matter what happens, they'll be connected forever. Pua as Shane was really one of the best Red Rangers in the franchise, and Pua himself was a great actor gone way too soon. Yeah, way too soon. Look, I don't like getting into people's personal lives, of anything that he might have had going on behind the scenes, or if there was anything that he was kind of struggling with. Who certainly knows? But as far as performance and acting wise, yeah, I always really appreciated him and Shane. And for me, Ninja Storm was such a unique season. Was our first time with like our first three Red Rangers. That it kind of immediately puts Ninja Storm sort of on the map of being recognized. You know what I mean? But the fact that you had somebody like Pua that could really bring Shane to life, and honestly, I think the main three Rangers were just really strong in and of themselves and made a really great team. But Pua as Shane was definitely revolutionary in that regards for bringing the Ninja Storm to life. So I'm a big fan. I remember one of our other viewers and friend of mine, AJ. He very much was a big fan of Pua and his work as Shane. And I almost feel like every anniversary he brings him up to me, always like a reminder on his anniversary of his passing, sort of thing. So I definitely understand what Pua meant to a lot of people and what he represented when it comes to Power Rangers. But yeah, it's crazy. It's 4 years. You mentioned the idea of like, wow, look at Pua being gone, JDF being gone. I had this surreal moment when I was watching Turbo, not Turbo, when I was watching Once and Always and seeing Tui along with JDF passing, and this sort of being in remembrance to them. And it just shows you, like, I look back at the team. If I stand back and look at the team and see who is still with us, it's kind of crazy to kind of see that we're down to like the last four, the OGs. And so I just hope that they stick together, keep themselves as healthy as they possibly can, hopefully give us another 30 years out of them. You know what I'm saying? But it's always good to be able to see our fellow OG Rangers and sticking around and things like that. So, Roberto, Turbo really wasn't that bad compared to the entire Neo Saban era. Compared to the Neo Saban era, like if you had to do comparisons, you might be right. You might be right. I have not gone back and watched Turbo in quite a number of years, but based on the fact that it was kind of off of like a parody or like a humorous comedic Super Sentai season, it always felt a little bit off to me, even as a kid watching it. So maybe it is time that I certainly go back and look at it. I don't necessarily know if I can say Turbo is the worst season of Power Rangers, especially if you're trying to compare it to something like Neo Saban era. He says, considering the original actors wanted to leave, they agreed to stay on for 16 episodes while Saban looked for their replacements. One of the most head scratching was when Tommy became interested in cars out of nowhere to accommodate the Sentai footage. Most notably, reason fans really hated Turbo was Justin being a kid who literally grew into a Ranger. Yeah, that was odd, but that was definitely threw me off, and I was not a big fan of it. But I'm pretty sure there was some levels of jealousy on my part. Like, how does this kid get to be a Power Ranger and I don't? So there's definitely some animosity there built up for sure. You say, and how Rocky was just written out by injuring his back, as well as Zordon and Alpha being replaced by Demetria and the Gangster Talking Alpha. Yeah, the Gangster Talking Alpha was weird. A lot of people don't mention it enough, but Justin was written as a know-it-all, acting like a high schooler, even making the older Rangers themselves look dumb. Example, Justin giving Carlos dating advice, even though Carlos was older than him. Yeah, it's a good. God, how embarrassing. Biggest downfall of Turbo was the huge mistake of adapting Car Ranger, which was a parody of Super Sentai, and why a lot of monsters and their attacks had to do with throwing food at the Rangers. The Rangers themselves acted out of character when using the footage. Diva Tox and her team were very comedic, often using detonators as plot devices in almost every episode. On the bright side, Turbo had one of the best finales in Power Ranger history by leading them into space, which they definitely had, which is still considered one of the best series in the entire franchise and one to save Power Rangers at the time. We also had an amazing two-parter of the power transfer where we got to see the Zeo cast one last time pass on their powers. Yeah, there definitely was some gems within Turbo. I definitely will recognize that for sure. But, look, they were adamant on continuing to adapt Sentai after Sentai, and the fact that they wind up bumping into Car Ranger was a little bit unfortunate. It is one of those things where it's just like, man, can we please, can we skip and maybe do another one? So we'll see. Sorry if I brought this up here. This is actually part of our next question. Maybe I'll bring that up in just a second. Morgan, what's up, Morgan? What do you think of the set photos by Aubrey Plaza of her upcoming MCU debut in the WandaVision spin-off series, Agatha Coven of Chaos? Well, first off, thank you very much, Morgan, for sending us this link. I honestly did not know that there were Aubrey Plaza set photos. I knew she was in it. We definitely mentioned it on Hero Report, I believe, that she was going to be a part of it. But let's see what they look like. The Darkhold Diaries? Wait, what? The Darkhold Diaries for Disney Plus. The upcoming MCU star Aubrey Plaza posted a new image on Instagram that revealed a fun Marvel-sized Disney logo, which is somehow involved in the actress's upcoming show. The picture showcases a fun logo that says The Darkhold Diaries. It's unclear what exactly the words are on, but it could be a production chair back minus the chair or simply a banner of something. Yeah, that kind of almost looks like either a banner or the back of what would be somebody's acting chair. Um, the logo is a clear spoof of the Princess Diaries. For this unfamiliar 2001 film, the poster can be seen below. Yeah, it is definitely a rip. I was kind of hoping that it would be like set photos of like her on set, but I'm not showing an actual photo of her, with the exception of the Darkhold Diaries. This to me almost feels like one, I don't know if this was like a code name for what they were filming Agatha Coven of Chaos under, so that maybe some people weren't exactly aware as to what was kind of being filmed. Um, or who knows? Listen, when it comes to Agatha, and you've got such great comedy actors like Catherine Hahn, Aubrey Plaza. They have such great timing when it comes to their performances, that I do think that there's probably going to be some comedic levels of in this particular series. So, I don't look, to me, it would be hilarious if there's like in this MCU world, there's literally a spoof or a show called The Darkhold Diaries in this world. Maybe it's Aubrey Plaza's character. Maybe she's created a show, or this is like something that she's working towards to kind of create and make fun of, type of thing. I really don't know. I don't know who Aubrey Plaza is going to be playing. I don't know if she's going to be a witch like Agatha or where she's coming from. But it looks like they're having some fun. So either this is like a code name for Agatha as it's being filmed in secrecy, or the Darkhold Diaries will be some sort of a spoof novel or book or play or TV series, maybe in this MCU world that Aubrey Plaza's character is a big fan of, or maybe she's writing herself. Who knows? You know what I mean? But that's a good question. I appreciate you bringing that up to our attention, Morgan. Thank you so much. Who's next on this list? We got Power Rangers Legacy. Whenever I watch old episodes of Power Rangers Samurai, I can't help but laugh at Jaden, who's a white guy being from a Japanese family. I just don't buy it. It did make me laugh, the idea of people laughing at Jaden being a white guy from a Japanese family. I keep thinking to myself, did nobody watch The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise? But look, that's completely different. Absolutely. I do wonder if they're I believe that was a true story, though, right? Of like a white guy being a general or whoever, becoming a samurai. Maybe I'm tripping, but I do wonder if there have ever been like white samurais in history, or if that's even possible. His father was the first red samurai ranger. Didn't make it any better since he himself was also a white guy instead of being Japanese. Heck, Mentor G himself could have been Jaden's father instead, even though the actor himself was Samoan. I don't think it would have been that hard to just cast an Asian actor to play the Red Ranger, unless Saban thought casting an Asian actor as Red would be offensive to Japan, since everyone is obviously Asian. Yeah, I am curious as to his decision making in regards to that. But we're also talking about a time period where whitewashing was sort of the thing. I don't necessarily know if we were that open to diversity and more inclusion. It's just funny to me that a lot of people were crapping on the idea of whitewashing, and now it seems as though there's so many people out there that are pissed off about diversity these days. Like, what's happening to this world, bro? He says, so it is a good question. I definitely would love to ask Saban that question one day. At least we actually got a good female Red Ranger on screen with Lauren, but only the last few episodes because of Sentai footage. Mia the Pink Ranger was the only character of Asian descent in the entire series of Samurai. If only during casting, Jaden and Antonio were swapped since Antonio's actor, Schuyler, was actually Asian but played a Hispanic character, which was weird. Jaden and his father being from a Japanese family never really made any sense. Not even a reference of either him or his father being adopted by a Japanese family. Aside from being a copy and paste of Shinkinger, Jaden being a white guy really was the main detriment people had with Samurai as a series. Come on, who's gonna believe a white guy being Japanese without any actual acknowledgement? It wouldn't hurt if we had at least a brief mention that Jaden's father was adopted by both Japanese family or his wife. Yeah, look, that being the first the series out of the gate of Saban getting his hands back on the franchise. Power Rangers never really explains anything. So this just felt very much like you mentioned, cut and paste of a series, and really not kind of putting that much effort or thought into creating something new and different. So it doesn't surprise me, fortunately. Doomsday. In Dino Charge 6 episode, The Tooth Hurts, do you feel that Riley was kind of being an idiot to refuse to take Chase's training advice or use his instincts and adapt to any situation? In my opinion, considering he's been a Power Ranger way before Riley, Chase obviously knows what he's doing. Do you feel that Riley was kind of being an idiot for refusing to take Chase's training advice on using his instincts and adapt to any situation? I mean, look, sometimes I may not necessarily remember the episode itself, um, per se, but I will say, look, some people are just extremely hard headed and it can be extremely stubborn. And I don't necessarily know if that was one of Riley's traits at times, but sometimes we think that we know better. And despite the fact that Chase was a Ranger way before Riley, you would think that he would certainly take his advice. But I can't remember if they had clashed before this or what type of moments Chase and Riley might have had leading up to this particular episode. But sometimes it's just one of those things that we believe that our way is the, not only say the only way, but the best way. And sometimes it takes us, unfortunately, a couple times to fail before we realize, yeah, I probably should listen to this person, or I probably should have taken this person's advice. So I almost feel like that's kind of natural for some people at times. Michael, what's up, Michael? What do you think of the upcoming Marvel's film that's coming out in November? And do you hope to see that stays true to the comic books when it comes to their relationship between Aman Vellani's Miss Marvel and Brie Larson's Captain Marvel? And if successful, would you like to see what would you like to see in a sequel, as well as Miss Marvel were to later crossover with other MCU characters like the Young Avengers? So, look, I will say I am curious as to what Brie Larson's status is with the MCU. She made an interesting comment in an interview the other day, asking them like, somebody asked her if she was going to come back for a trilogy, or where she thinks this character goes from here. And then she made this comment of like, well, I don't know if people even want me to come back as Captain Marvel, right? Kind of like addressing just the naysayers and the negative sort of voice around her in regards to how the first one was certainly received. I mean, the movie itself, I believe, made $1 billion, but just was not very well received or very critically sort of panned. You know what I mean? So, the fact that some people are suggesting the fact that this movie has both um, Aman Vellani's Miss Marvel, her Kamala Khan, along with Monica Rambeau in here. Some people are saying, this is their way of kind of pushing Brie Larson sort of to the background. I personally don't look at it that way. I think that these two characters have just really garnered attention and fame, and the fact that they focused on them so heavily when it comes to the Disney Plus series, you got to utilize them at some point in time, right? Like, the purpose of creating these Disney Plus series was in fact to introduce us to new characters and then to include them certainly in the movies, and that's exactly what they're definitely doing here. And to me, the trailers have looked fun. Granted, we've only had one trailer. I do want to see what the second or maybe third trailer will be like, maybe flesh out a couple of the plot details. But as far as like getting you hyped, letting you know the type of like pacing and tone and the fun and action that's going to be in this movie, I think was pretty smart. There are a couple scenes in the trailers that I've seen that are kind of worrisome also at the same time. But there's a lot more to this movie that we have not seen. If there is a concern that I have about the Marvels, it's probably the idea of how many people are going to come out to see this film, not because of just the success of Captain Marvel, but I almost feel like if you did not watch WandaVision, if you did not watch Miss Marvel, you may go into this movie having absolutely no clue what's happening around you, sort of thing. And so I do hope when it comes to a storytelling purposes that they introduce a lot of these characters extremely well to first time viewers. Because looking at the trailer itself, I mean, you see this new girl, Amon Villani, stuck in this spacesuit talking about Nick Fury, and is this an Avengers test? Like, what does she know about any of this stuff if you've never seen her before, right? So I do think it's going to be an interesting balance. How do you balance all these characters? Can you introduce these characters to the general audience for the first time and not having had to have watched what certainly came before and still make this movie rather successful? So I do think it will stay true to the comic books. Brie Larson and Amon Villani seem to get along extremely well. And I think they're going to have a really great relationship on screen. It looks like it's going to be fun, yet frustrating for somebody like Brie Larson's Carol Danvers. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I really am. I hope it's successful. And even though I personally wasn't the biggest fan of the first Captain Marvel, I do want this to garner some success and even more traction. And I would like to see more of Brie Larson as Captain Marvel because I do think that she is that great of an actor. Whether or not this will lead to Miss Marvel joining the Young Avengers, I gotta think so at some point in time. I think she'll be a full-fledged member. What else we got here? Carlo Bernardo. What's up, Carlo? How awesome was that Power Ranger introduction? That that Power Rangers introduced the idea of battleizers when it comes to being an exclusive battle armor. When the first being introduced by Andros in space. Every season that came after, the Red Ranger was the only one who had a battle armor except RPM, with the exception of the Blue and Green Rangers from Lightspeed Rescue who had battleizers of their own called the Mega Battles. From what I researched, Super Sentai brought over the idea of battleizers by borrowing the exact battleizer that Jack used in Power Rangers SPD for the Super Sentai Team Up special, Magi Ranger versus Deca Ranger. I didn't know that. Even given its own unique transformation sequence that was different from the one in SPD. The first somewhat of a battleizer to be created for Super Sentai, which was more of a power up, was in Kuryuger, aka Dino Charge. Anyways, how awesome was that since borrowing the SPD battleizer, Super Sentai continued the tradition of battleizers for every other season of Super Sentai? It was a cool idea. The most recent battleizer we've had in Power Rangers was in Dino Fury and Zeto's Dino Knight Armor. Um, what made it even more unique compared to the one of Real Soldier was that it allowed the Dino Rangers to use it, as we saw Javi use it briefly in Season 2, Episode 9, The Hunt. Oh, he did use it, didn't he? It wasn't just solely Zeto's. Would you like to see Sentai borrow other elements from Power Rangers, or you prefer to keep doing their own thing? I prefer them to keep doing their own thing. Unless Power Rangers just becomes so uniquely different to Super Sentai, then maybe I'm cool with that. But in the meantime, right now, I'd rather have them do their own thing. Alexander. What's up, Alexander? He says, I came to the realization that Scorpina was so underused in MMPR. She really was, though. I think she had a great costume, great look about her, just disappointed they didn't utilize her more. Her character was entirely Japanese footage, aside from one off episode in season 2 when we actually had an American actress play her in new footage. The actress was Sabrina Liu in the Japanese footage in Zoo Ranger. She was married to Goldar and they ended up having a child. I guess when it comes to Power Rangers, Saban didn't want to spend the money on keeping the on-screen American actress to play her. This also had to do with the Japanese footage herself. Scorpina was far more dangerous. This is the fall of Super Sentai, especially if you don't want to spend money on new footage. The writing can come later. Yeah, Scorpina definitely very much underutilized, and I think I always appreciated her certainly as a villain and wanted to see more. Just because I just felt like she wasn't utilized enough, and she looked extremely dangerous. Was certainly more than capable of handling herself. I didn't even know in Super Sentai that she was married to Goldar, but the fact that they're all decked out in gold together, that kind of makes sense to me a little bit more now that I look back on it. If anything, I personally always, as a fan, wanted to see more Scorpina, and that's where I think Boom Comics, Boom Studios, comes into play here, because I think they've done some remarkable work with the Scorpina character over the several years to really just make her that much more interesting, especially like the coinless universe type of stuff that they managed to do over there. I've had a really good couple of years. I've kind of fallen off of the Boom Studios comic books after like Kyle Higgins and Ryan Parrott wind up leaving, some of my really fantastic like artists that I was a really big fan of. I've kind of fallen off of the comic books, not because they haven't stayed good. I'm sure that they're probably still excellent, but I definitely have fallen off. But I remember some great sort of pointless universe storylines that highlighted Scorpina and maybe a little bit of a rivalry between her and Kimberly Hart of that universe, the Ranger Slayer stuff. So I feel like there's always so much potential when it comes to Scorpina, for them to continue to utilize. So I hope we see more of her. Gabriel, what's up, Gabriel? He says, when the Fantastic Four film comes out, it introduces the first superhero family in the MCU. And if it does well at the box office, I would love to see Johnny Storm and Peter Parker meet and form a friendship like they did in the comics. May not happen, but it would be cool to see them form a bromance. I can imagine Peter saying to Johnny that how did it feel being a walking fireball, and if you ever got dumped in water. From what I Googled, I saw a picture of both Johnny Storm and Peter Parker as roommates. There was a point where Johnny fell for Spider Girl, who was basically a clone Peter Parker in a female body, which was hilarious. Would you like to see Johnny and Peter be friends in live action? Any other comic book character you already knew in the MCU but no longer remember Peter, is Spidey? Oh, hold on. Would you like to see Johnny and Peter be friends in live action, or any other comic book character, um, or that we already knew in the MCU? Um, I definitely want to see the Johnny and Peter stuff. I don't necessarily need to have Peter in the entirety of the movie. Like a meeting between Johnny and Peter at like a post-credit scene or a mid-credit scene, for like 30 seconds, I think would be really fun just to establish that. They've done such a good job so far when it comes to Spider-Man of establishing like his friendly neighborhood, superheroes that he teams up with. We just saw him team up with Doctor Strange, in No Way Home. It would not surprise me if we see him, or Daredevil pop up in either, Spider-Man in the Daredevil series or Daredevil in the next Spider-Man movie, right? I think these are important connections to make, especially, considering how long these friendships have happened, over the years in comic books. And Johnny and Peter being best friends is just one of those like, locked in trademark, parts of Marvel. You know what I mean? Marvel Comics. So I definitely do think it will happen. In what capacity, that I do not know, but I do think at some point in time we will see sort of a Peter and Johnny Storm bromance. How many else we got? We almost done here. Let's see here. Next up, good old George. Hey George, what's up, George? He says, "Is it weird that when it comes to movies, hold on, is it weird that when it comes to movies these days, if it doesn't make money, hold on, wait. Is it weird that when it comes to movies these days, if it doesn't make money in the box office, it's automatically considered a failure flop, despite what critics say? But if critics don't like a movie or has issues or is very well received, the box office itself doesn't matter. It's like a back and forth sort of thing." Um, hmm. When I usually consider a movie a flop when it doesn't do good at the movies, at the box office. Um, if it's pretty well received, well, again, when I look at a box office flop, I look at a movie that had a certain particular type of budget and unfortunately just did not make it financially. You know, um, that's what I call a flop. The movie could be good, But when I think of the word flop, I think of it in the terms of finances, not so much the fact of it being a good or bad movie. Um, so if critics crap all over the movie and say this movie is shit, but the movie performs, then I think it's a, a performing movie. You know what I mean? I wouldn't call that a flop. I really only call a movie a flop when it just does disastrous at the box office, or just does not make sort of its money back. So I think when it comes to money, um, in that terms, yes, it is a flop. But if if it makes money, but yet people it's received or well received, um, then yeah, I don't view it that way. So it really all comes down to money for me, George. Abase, what's up, Abase? He says Simon Bennett is a boss. You know how the toxic Power Ranger fandom constantly harassing Simon Bennett? While it's really annoying, but at the same time, it's a good reminder and motivation for him. Knowing how much of an amazing job he's done for Power Rangers since Dino Fury in a way, him being harassed does make him more competent as a showrunner and director in Power Rangers. Who knew that we would ever have a showrunner from Power Rangers like Simon who actually interacts with fans no matter the case, and actually listens to fans when it comes to creating Power Rangers? Imagine if Saban was still in control, he clearly wouldn't take anything seriously and would continue making Power Rangers a disaster. So, really, while it does suck that the toxic fans keep attacking Simon, he at least takes in consideration when it comes to making Power Rangers better and better. Just watching Dino Fury and Once and Always, you can clearly see the love that Simon has for the franchise, both as showrunner and occasional director. I will agree with you, Abase. Simon Bennett is a boss, sir. Um, Look, I think that there's some lessons that Simon Bennett probably I'm hoping has learned during this time period, because I am one of those people that appreciate when a creator interacts with fans. James Gunn I think does it. I've seen some other people. I think Kevin Smith is probably that same way. He's pretty open to talking about fans, talking with fans and stuff. But while I appreciate that interaction, I do think it also takes a level of thick skin. I don't think you should necessarily be putting yourself out there all the time, right? Um, I think him being successful um is probably why he has the amount of trolls that he does now, right? Like I think because I think it all comes full circle in the sense that when you're successful and you're doing a good job, there are always going to be haters out there. And the more success and the more good things that you do, more people will start to come out of the woodwork. Those same people that might have loved your stuff, maybe now they've gotten a little bit more comfortable with you, and now they want to go ahead and just like troll the shit out of you or be completely toxic. Or maybe there's some fans that just hate the idea that this person has become successful and maybe doesn't want to see Power Rangers go in that particular way, and so it now garners or warrants sort of this guy to be heckled and trolled and stuff. It's extremely annoying to me, and I think it's a super disrespectful, and I'll never in my life support a troll for getting on a creator's ass. Now, can a creator maybe be online a little bit too much, and get a little bit too sensitive? Yeah, maybe I probably have seen um, Simon Bennett um, get to that point. But then I also have to admit that I admire Simon Bennett for understanding maybe he's a little bit too sensitive about things at times and coming out and trying to correct it. But I also think the fact that these trolls get under his skin, and then if he does find himself getting to the point of tripping on his own words or maybe saying something to somebody that he wrongly said, and then they want to get on his ass for, oh, he shouldn't have attacked that fan, or oh, he shouldn't have said, bitch, you're the one that pushed this man to this point. And the fact that that's not self-evaluating, or that these people don't understand that, and then they want to turn their backs on Simon because you literally have trolled this man for months, if not the past year, and when he's had it and he responds in the way that he probably shouldn't, then you want to attack him. No, that's on you. That's not on Simon Bennett. That's on you. But Simon Bennett is big enough and he's a big enough man to come out and apologize and correct maybe some things that he said in an off tone. So I will never defend trollers, especially when you troll somebody, you get the reaction that you want from them, and then you want to blast them. Like that's just bullshit to me. Like that's just like little dick shit to me. Like I cannot stand trolls. Now look, I know Jinsaku's a troll, but I also know when he's trolling, when he's being serious, and when he's just being funny. And I've never seen Jinsaku attack somebody or really get under somebody's skin like that before, without you knowing, like, okay, he's just fucking around. But trust me when I say there are trolls that are a bajillion times worse, and really do that stuff just to get under people's skin. So again, while I appreciate Simon Bennett being forthcoming with his fans and wanting to be, reaching out to them and talking with them and answering questions that they can, the only warning I would put out there to Simon Bennett is, if you personally do not know how to handle yourself or respond to people, you should limit your time for sure. Like, there's nothing wrong with doing it, but if you know that you're not thick-skinned and things can get under your skin a little bit, maybe pace yourself a little bit, but continue interacting because I do think it does wonders for the brand, honestly. But he's doing great work, man. He's doing great work. If he wasn't doing great work, people wouldn't harass him so much, and I think that's a testament to what he's been able to do. What's up, Kenny? Do you guys have any favorite music artist documentaries or biopic films? Mine was the biopic, 2015 Straight Outta Compton. That's one I still have not seen, man. And I love me some NWA, so I might need to check that out. Um, wow is not enough to describe this. The acting, pacing, music, story, all of it was just awesome. This shed a light on how society viewed rap and hip hop and black culture. How did this film not get more recognition, or am I out of the loop? I think it did get pretty good recognition actually when it dropped. I heard a lot of great things about Straight Outta Compton when it was released. I believe Ice Cube's son, was it O'Shea Jackson, got a lot of praise for his performance in there also. So I look, a bunch of shirts came out, straight out of whatever city that you were in. Generator kind of came out also. So I do think during the time it definitely got the recognition it's deserved, and I think it might have even been nominated for an Oscar in some capacity. Maybe I'm tripping, but I definitely do think it got its recognition. But that's unfortunately a movie I just never got to see, and I grew up in that era. Um, at least in that era of like, I might have got introduced to hip hop just as that group wind up dispersing. I would see Easy E on like other projects with like Bone Thugs and Harmony type of thing. I grew up a hip hop head back in the '90s. I was raised in the Bronx. I was raised in New York. Like it's hip hop culture right there, right? So I grew up on all this stuff. And so for me to be able to see like the pushback against hip hop and rap, um, we're not against rap. We're not against rappers, but we are against those thugs. I mean, the way that they, showcased it, burning CDs and stuff, right? I mean, they felt very afraid of hip hop, unfortunately, during that time period. And so I always love to kind of see how society viewed rap and hip hop through different lenses and stuff. And so that's definitely a movie I need to see. But as far as like favorite music artists, I thought the Bohemian Rhapsody was pretty good. If you're a big Queen fan, like I thought I was a big Queen fan, but even watching that movie, I discovered more songs that I knew, but I didn't even know was Queen to certainly begin with. But that was incredible. It gave me goosebumps certainly at times. I don't really watch a lot of um music artist documentary or biopics. I don't know if you would put 8 Mile up there as like a biopic. It's sort of like, hey, this is Eminem's life through a character that he wind up playing that sort of portrays his life type of thing, right? So if you want to put that in in that sort of category too, yeah, give me 8 Mile, which I think really changed the landscape for a lot of rap heads out there. John Schuyler, how awesome was Mesogog and Anton Mercer in Dino Thunder? He was really menacing when it came to being the main villain. I mean, the costume alone was menacing. I really loved the design of Mesogog. I thought it was actually really cool. Who knew throughout the series that he would end up being Tommy's long lost friend who was a rich guy? He was first presumed dead in the very first episode after the explosion on an island. Then later, he would end up being the adopted father of Trent. The big reveal that he was Anton Mercer was a huge shock in the episode, burning at both ends. He was the reason Trent became evil as the White Ranger because he wanted the power for himself, but Trent accidentally found it. Later in the missing bonus transformation sequence was so scary that his whole face stretched. Yeah, it's pretty menacing stuff, man. The makeup department did such an awesome job at the prosthetics. You really couldn't tell the same person under the mask, even the voice was so different. He and Anton sharing the same body as some Jekyll and Hyde sheet was Mesogog overpowering Anton's will. Actor Latham Gaines was a talented guy. His whole desire of turning the Earth into a new era of dinosaurs was really cool and different from other villains. Yeah, man, Mesogog was one heck of a villain and easily one of the best in all of Power Rangers. I can't deny that, John. I honestly I can't deny that. I thought he was an impeccable villain for Dino Thunder, and I thought Latham Gaines did a remarkable job as Anton Mercer. And yeah, like I said, that design for his for the creature, incredible stuff, man. Jericho, what's up, Jericho? Remember when the first official look at the brand new poster of Cosmic Fury? I noticed that Zato, as the new Zenith Ranger, Cappuccino Ranger, doesn't have his own weapon. I think maybe his weapon or ability is being able to summon energy attacks through the morphing grid. Ooh, or call upon any weapon he wants just by thinking of it. Like, you're talking about like a Kamehameha? Like just an energy ball? That would be pretty fucking incredible. I would love to see that. Um, that would be cool if he could do that. That would make him a really unique ranger. Thanks to the Morphing Masters, his new Zenith suit and the red and white one that was teased at the end of Dino Fury look very similar to the White Ranger from Zenkaiger. Yeah, I thought the one at the end of Dino Fury kind of reminded me more of the Zenkaiger suit. I would also think that by having a very unique ability, that he would have his own storyline, especially since he's the only one with a cape. Dino Fury already proven that could balance multiple storylines with within a couple episodes. That would be super mega dopey. I am kind of in agreement with you, Jericho, in the sense that I do think that Zato will have his own unique storyline. I think the fact that Amelia is the Red Ranger now, sort of now as the leader of the team, or at least I'm assuming, it does make me wonder what Zato's place is. Like, I do wonder, is Zato truly the leader of the team still, but Amelia is now just Red, or is he like just this separate ranger entity now that goes on his own missions, discover things, sort of thing, and then comes back and sort of like reports to the team. So I am kind of curious how close Zeta will be with the team this upcoming Cosmic Fury season, but I am under the impression he will have his own unique storyline. But I have nothing to certainly back that up. But yeah, I remember some people calling him Champagne Poppy Ranger. Cappuccino Ranger is a pretty good one also, but I have been hearing that Champagne one a lot. Tony Robinson, what's up, Tony Robinson? What video games do you guys want to see get adapted to a movie or TV series? Do you think we'll get any news from Jonathan Entwistle and Jenny Klein's Power Ranger project? So to answer both questions, what video game do I want to see? Give me a Final Fantasy movie. I don't know how they would put that together. I feel like Final Fantasy would do well in a TV series format. I would love to see that sort of brought to life. I'm still waiting my goddamn Zelda game, please. Give me a Star Fox. I want Star Fox. Like and now that Nintendo's been successful with their Super Mario Brothers, I've been thinking about a bunch of Nintendo games I would love to see brought to life. But I would definitely love to see um, Zelda along with I just named him Star Fox in a game, if in a movie. If anything, I'm trying to think of some other old school games that I used to play. I wouldn't mind a Call of Duty movie. Give me a Call of Duty movie. I would probably be able to do that. It might be more like your generic, like a war movie, but I think you can come up and craft a really great espionage sort of military film. So give me a Call of Duty movie would be cool. Yeah, man, those are just, I'll just throw out a couple. Do you think we'll get any news from Jonathan Entwistle and Jenny Klein's Power Ranger project? I'm pretty sure we probably will. I don't know when the next Hasbro Pulse stream is. I don't necessarily know when the next um, Hasbro PulseCon is, or even like quarterly call. But last that I had heard from, let me give you the updates that I am aware of. From stuff that Jin Saku had sent me. This is a few months ago, though. I do need to reach out to Jin and see how he's been doing lately, and just kind of connect with him, and see what he's been doing. But also, he does say last time, this was back in April 20th, and Whistle's Power Ranger show is going into pre-production in November. So if anything, maybe we'll get more details after Cosmic Fury sort of winds up dropping, because it looks like that's when they want to really start doing pre-production. So maybe, I believe they might be cast already. Um, if not cast, then maybe we'll get some concept art once they start getting into pre-production and set designs and stuff like that. There's also another show in the works. Jenny Klein is in charge of both shows. And Whistle will be involved with just one of them. So Jenny Klein is in fact working on a secondary show. So the second show isn't Sentai, and Simon isn't in charge of both shows, since they are both under Jenny Klein. He says, I also don't know if it's related to the Entwistle universe or the main universe. So we do have a secondary show that's in development. Not a special, but maybe a season 31. So he says he's not sure as of yet, though. So he doesn't believe that it's related. He doesn't know if it's related to Jonathan Entwistle's universe or anyone else. Yeah, basically the reboot is starting pre-production in late November, picking film locations, costume designs, etc. And he does say casting might start in January. Also, when the script got turned in, Hasbro said it was really good and one of the best they've read, so that's good news. Second show is in early talks, though, so we won't know anything on that for a while. This is the last thing. Red is definitely a female in the reboot script, and my character descriptions were 100% accurate, but the name could just be placeholders. So, and this was April 20th, and I think he revealed some of these character descriptions maybe that same month, or maybe sometime in March, if I'm not mistaken. But that was the last update from Jin that I personally had. But, look, it might be time for me to sit down and have another conversation with him and try and get him on Hero Report at some particular point in time. So I just wanted to go ahead and bring that guy up to your guys' attention. But yeah, man, other than that, guys, I think that's going to do it for all of our live viewer questions. So thank you guys so much for certainly participating and always coming through. And if anything, later on this week, we'll drop another live viewer question post for you guys before we head into this upcoming weekend's episode of APlus Hero Reports. But that will, in fact, do it for me here, guys. Let me know some of your thoughts, any responses to some of my questions or answers. Feel free to drop them in the comment section box below. And we'll see you guys later on this week with other fantastic content. But until then, do me a big favor, as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.